Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm super excited to be showing you the much requested how to make Electro like Jensen Interceptor. As usual, you get the project file and samples, a MIDI and presets, and all that kind of stuff for this video in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it'll all be available shortly. I believe it's already available now, actually. Yeah, let's get started. So, this loop you heard in the intro, we're at 130 BPM, and the first sound that I have here is the kick, which sounds like this. So with this kick, you can see it's pretty simple. It's just sort of like this, like 808 style, just really thumpy, deep kick like that. You can see I've got it tuned to F, that's the key we're in. And then you can see I just kind of shortened it a little bit. So yeah, pretty simple stuff here. You know, this one is more about the sample selection. And also I don't have any processing on actually any of the individual drums. But there's quite a bit on the group, which I'll explain when I get to that. So yeah, that's the kick. Next thing we have here is the hi-hat, which sounds like this. So pretty simple stuff. Again, here it's more just about like the sample selection, kind of like getting one of these more old school sort of analog sounding hi-hats. And then it's just playing straight 16th notes to kind of like, you can hear what that does for the energy. Like here's without that. And then when we add it. So the hi-hats are very important. The next thing that we have here is this little rim shot, which sounds like this. So this is pretty simple. You know, it's sort of like just a little quiet rim shot sound that plays in there. It helps to add some extra stuff. I have this, and I also have this little zap sample, and you can, or the zap that I made, I should say. And if you listen to it without those, it's still cool. But I feel like, you know, the zaps and the rim shot, like these kinds of things are what really bring it to life. So that's really the purpose there with that, is like just to add some extra sort of ear candy and not just have it be like the main drums. That's the rim shot. And the next thing that we have here is the snare, which sounds like this. So you can hear with this one, again, same thing, just sort of like a nice punchy sort of drum machine style snare. With this one you can see I've got a little bit of an interesting pattern at the end of every 4 bars here. You know, like stuff like that I think is important to add in, because if you don't, it just sounds kind of flat. Like that's what really gives it that like kind of simple like electro. You know, just having stuff like that in there at the end of every 4 bars. And yeah, that's pretty much the snare. Next thing that we have here is this little zap sound that I made, which sounds like this. So these are very popular in this style of music. Basically, this is a really simple sound to make. You can see I just have it playing F, and then what's happening here is we have a sine wave with a really short envelope going into a pitch envelope. And the pitch envelope is what gives it the zap. Here's without that. And then with it, so you can see and hear. It's just going from a really high pitch down to the pitch that you're playing really quickly, and that's how you get that sound. And you can also do this with different things. Like I wanted this one to be a little bit more in the background, but you can also do it with like a saw wave or a square wave. You know, it's actually, there's a lot of different things you can do. But yeah, it's a pretty simple sound, but this is very popular in these styles of like electro and stuff. I've heard this in a lot of Jensen Interceptor's tracks. So definitely a good sound to know how to make, and it's very simple. Now, I have all of those drums that I just showed you in a group, which I have called the drum machine here. So the idea here is we're trying to kind of treat this like a drum machine. Like when you have a drum machine, you know, if you had an 808 or 909, I know a lot of them have like individual outs for the drums for each individual sound. But typically what a lot of people will do is they will just put the whole drum machine into like distortion or maybe not even into distortion, but into like you know, tape or something like that. Like just trying to give it all kind of that same texture at the same time. And so that's the goal here. You can hear if I turn off all this processing on here, it's like nowhere near the same thing. So again, we're trying to process this as if it was just like one drum machine that we were just outputting all the audio from basically, and then putting that through the effects. And the reason why we're doing this is because it makes everything a lot more like tied together. Something with electro is like that I've noticed is that the drums tend to really sound like kind of just really glued together and really tight and cohesive. And this is the way that you do that, is by saturating every drum at the same time. Because if I take a saturator, I'll show you. Like, if we just get this one, and we'll just turn the drive all the way up, turn the output down. You know, you can hear by the end there, it's just being kind of distorted and turned into this one like big squashed together thing. So this is what saturation does, is it kind of glues things together and squeezes them together a little bit. Not necessarily the way compression would, where it's like flattening out the dynamics, but yeah, I mean, you can hear pretty much like as I turn these on. For example, you can hear the hi-hat and the kick kind of crunching together. You can even hear it a little bit with the zap. It's like stuff like that. That's what you're going for. That's how you get these, like I said, really cohesive sounding drums. So the first thing that I have here, I'll turn these all off and just go from the start. So the first thing I have here is the saturator. Here's without it. And then with it, so you can hear this one is mostly just fattening up the drums, you know. It's just kind of doing that like preliminary, like taking them from just sounding like dry samples and kind of like bringing them into the project, you know, and making them sound more full and more together as well. After that, we have this first drum bus, which sounds like this. So you can hear that just takes it a step further. The saturator is just bringing up the volumes and bringing up like the fatness level and all that kind of stuff a little bit. But the drum bus is what really like brings it out. You know, it's really like making the kick hit loud and everything else. It's crunching together the hi-hat and the kick. It's bringing out even the rim shot and the snare and stuff. Like, yeah, and you can see with this, I just have the drive up bit, got the crunch up bit as well. And then I have that on hard actually. So it's doing quite a bit. But again, it works pretty well here. And then the last thing we have on here is just one more drum bus. So here's without that. And then with it, so you can hear this one and see that this one is a bit more dialed back. I don't have the drive up a bit. I don't even have the crunch up. And we've got it on the soft setting. But there's just adding that last little, like, kind of power to the drums. You know, you can just hear, like, they really, really hit now. So that's the goal of that. And yeah, you can see, like, we've got 3 different distortions here, or 3 different saturations, I guess I should say. Like, in theory, you know, a lot of people will maybe be saying, like, oh, why aren't you just doing this with one saturator? But the reason why we're doing this with multiple is because it's kind of like, it's better to do little things and kind of add them up as opposed to, like, one big thing. Like, if I have all 3 of these and say I feel like it's too distorted, well, I can just turn off one of these. I can turn off the saturator. Turn that off. We can turn that off. Versus if you just say had like a saturator that was just going really hard on this, you know, and you wanted to dial it back a little bit, you wouldn't really have a lot of options. So that's why we do it with like multiple things stacked together, as opposed to just, like I said, like one powerful enough saturation that would be doing the same thing. So that is it for the drums. The next thing that we have here is the string, which sounds like this. This is a pretty simple sort of electro stab. Basically, we just have this playing F minor. You can see, again, we're in the key of F minor. And what I've got going on here is I have the string sample. Same kind of one you would use to do like one of those really high kind of strings like over top of everything. But then you can hear I just have it playing these quick stabs. So it just goes like burn. I've also, another thing here is like with the placement of the stabs, like having them on the 3, that's a really good place with these kinds of beats. For whatever reason, with these kinds of beats, like if you listen to it, you get like, boom, boom, boom. You know, it kind of, it's like playing off of the drums, versus if we just put it on like the 1, for example. Like that works as well, but it doesn't have as much groove for whatever reason. So yeah, and then, like I said, I just have a string sample here, and then that's going into a bit of chorus, just to give it some more kind of space. I'll show you, it's pretty subtle, here's without it. And then with it, so you can hear it just makes it a bit more like, I mean, makes it a bit more chorusy. But it really helps to widen it a little bit as well. After that, we have this reverb. So this is just adding, as you would imagine, that little bit of reverb that you're hearing. Pretty simple stuff there. And then the last thing we have on here is the saturator, just to kind of fatten it up a little bit and tie all this together at the end of the chain. Here's without it, and then with it. So you can hear what's going on there. And that is it for the string. And then the last layer that we have here is the bass, which sounds like this. So you can hear this really fills in the spaces of the groove. You know, without this, I feel like we're just listening to like the intro or something. But this gives you something that's kind of like constantly going underneath it, and it's also melodic, you know, because everything else here is just very much like one thing. So having something like this, which is playing a lot of different notes, I think it really helps. So this is a really simple pattern here. You can see it's just following this little shape where I've got F, F sharp, and then G sharp, and then yeah. So I just have those notes. I also have a C there, which is just the fifth of F or F minor. Pretty simple stuff. And then we just have F, F sharp, and G sharp up here. So pretty simple. You know, it's more about like the rhythm. And I wanted to make something that fit really well with the drums. So yeah, and then for the sound on this one, I made it using analog. What we have here is we have a saw wave, and then we also have a square wave, an octave up from that. And then those are going into this low pass. You can see the low pass, we got the resonance up pretty high. We've got an envelope on there as well. And then I've got the filter frequency being constantly modulated. So this is, or automated, I should say. It's kind of like what you would do with a 303 or something like that, you know? It just gives it some movement, because otherwise, I mean, there's no other automation in here. So this is really like moving, and you can hear if I just keep this in one place, like there. It's not as exciting. Like you're getting that intensity when it's like, when it's moving like that. So the last thing we have there inside of analog is just a bit of unison to kind of beef it up a bit. Here's without that. And then with it, you can hear it's a lot fatter. And that is it for inside the synth. After that, I have a bit of echo, just doing dotted eighth notes. You can hear that. That really helps to kind of give this some more like rhythm, because otherwise, it's just really dry. But this way you get those repeats and it kind of flows a little better. And then after that, we just have a bit of saturator and a bit of drum bus. This is really similar to what I did with the drums. You know, it's just kind of like stacking them to kind of build it up as opposed to just having like one strong distortion to do it all. So here's what none of these. You can hear it's very clean and dry. And there's with the saturator, that fattens it up a little. And there's the drum bus. You can hear that's what really takes it and gives it that like foundation, you know? And then the only other thing we have on there is just this EQ8, which is cutting out at 100 hertz. To kind of make some room for the kick, because this was clashing a bit with the kick. They're both kind of like big meaty sounds in the Moen. But if you cut out that range, you can hear it fits in a lot better. And yeah, that is it for the bass, and that is me for this one, guys. So, thank you very much. I hope you all enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video, as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Once again, you can get the project file, and samples, and MIDI, and presets, and all that kind of stuff in this video in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there, because they'll all be available shortly. Thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.